which direction this world has been going. And so I'm going to use a demonstration in Genesis 11. What happens when a nation forgets God? I'm going to use the demonstration of the Tower of Babel. We're going to look at a story here when a nation forgot Jesus. When a nation forgot Christ, and we're just going to see what God does for this nation. These are people that wanted their independence from God. If we remember, they came from after the flood. And so they were saying they wanted their independence. And so when you look at verse 1, it says that the whole earth spoke in one tongue. So that means everybody was one accord. Before we had Japanese language, Mexican language, all these different languages, everybody spoke one thing. And that's it. Everyone had the same kind of speech. They had something in common. When we look at verse 2, it says, and it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east to the east, that they found a plain of field, and they dwelled there. Now, we got to understand at this point in time, when they moved to the east, that means they've gone further away from God. Because if you remember Cain, when God kicked Cain out of the place, he went eastward from Eden. He wanted to get farther away from God than he can. So when at this time in the Bible, when they're talking about heading east, that means they're trying to head far away from God. They didn't want to be one nation under God. They wanted to come up with their own plan. They wanted to do their own thing. Verse 3 tells us, then they said to one another, come let us make bricks and make buildings thoroughly. Then they had bricks for stones, and they used asphalt for mortar. So in other words, they wanted to make their own civilization. They didn't need God anymore. They thought they knew what was best for them. They didn't want to have anything else. They wanted to do it themselves. Even though we see these buildings, they thought they knew everything. Then they also see people doing this in their own lives today. I'm smart enough to do it by myself. I'm rich enough to do it by myself. I'm connected with the right people. I don't need God anymore. Let me tell you this. Whenever we see this as a whole world thinking this way, we're in trouble. Yeah. They wanted to be apart from God using their technology at this time. When we read on to this, they wanted three things when we read the next verse. When we read verse 4, the first thing they wanted when we read verse 4, they wanted to build a city. We would call it a capital because they are already in the land, so they wanted to build a capital, a center point that everybody would see. But the thing is, they wanted some religion. They wanted to look like it was a religion without having God actually the center point of their lives. How we know this? Because when they talk about building the tower, it says to reach the heavens. So in other words, they wanted to go to heaven. They didn't want heaven to come down. They wanted to make sure they had a plan. They wanted to do it themselves. They couldn't wait for God to do anything for them anymore. There's enough here that we can see this in our whole world today. There's people that think they're smart enough. We don't need God anymore. They're rich enough. I have been successful. I have my own business. tower for? Well, if it wasn't for God, it wouldn't happen.
Amen.
The second thing they wanted to do is a tower. We would call this tower being like a steeple on the church because, like I said, they wanted to head straight up to heaven. What they wanted to do is like many people do today, they wanted to make it look like God was there without God actually being there. We see that in our families. We see that in our churches today. We see this in nations around the world that we just want enough God to get us through. And that's it. Churches today operates this way. Families today operates this way. And I'm sad to say, even individuals today operate this way. We wanted to make it look good. When people look at it, they can say, look at him. He must be the Holy One. But we don't want God the center of our life. They went and construct this of their own lives, but they didn't want God to be the center of their lives. Now they wanted to do one thing in verse 4 that we'll see here. Let us make ourselves a name. Everybody wants a name. They wanted to show themselves. They didn't want to be recognized by anything else but what they wanted to. Why? Because they didn't want to be recognized by God's name. They wanted to make their own name. They wanted to do things their way. They thought they knew better than anything. So they said, let us make ourselves a name. They didn't want to identify with who our God really is. What we see here is that they wanted to create their own name because they just didn't want to identify with our Jesus Christ anymore. Yeah. They did not want to answer to a higher being, so what they do, they tried to create something. The only way you don't have to answer to God, you have to become a God. And that's what they wanted to do. Because they didn't want to answer to anybody higher, so they wanted to get to this level. We have seen this over and over in time. Satan said, I don't want to be Lucifer anymore. I want my own kingdom. Yeah. He thought he knew better than God. He wanted to rule somewhere else. He thought he needed to be in the plans with them. So he didn't like the name Lucifer anymore. He wanted to be somebody else. Verse 5 let us know. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men built. It said the Lord came down. When we check this out, this is a very important piece. The Lord could have did anything from anywhere. But he said, let me come down. When we look at beginning of verse 7, it says, let us go down. So at this time, we see this nation said, let us build a city. Let us build a tower. Let us build a name. Well, God said, okay, let us come down. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, let us come down. They came down and checked this big city out. This big tower, there's all this education these people got, the new technology they have. They thought they were really doing something. God checked it out. He didn't check it out because he wanted to see what it was looking like. He checked it out because he knew he had to handle it. When we finish reading this, it tells us that in verse 6, nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. So God knew something. He knew that if I don't take care of this, something is going to happen. It's not like they can outdo God, but we have to understand something. We have to go back to Genesis 1, God said 3 things when he made Adam and Eve. He said 3 words, let them rule. When he said that, he was telling everybody, you have the right to choose. You have the right to choose what you do, but you have the right to get the consequences of what you choose. If you look at Adam, he said you can eat at any tree from this garden. There's 2 trees in the middle. You can have the tree of life, but don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Because once you eat that, you're going to see what's good and evil. And not like God only gave him one choice, and he restricted everything else. He gave him the whole garden and said, just don't eat from one. Yeah. Then when we look at it, we see now that that's why he didn't stop Adam. Adam had a choice. He said, let them rule. You rule over your life, but be ready to get the consequences, what comes when you make that decision. So when God said at the end of verse 6, nothing will be held from them, he was saying in the form of, if we don't take care of this, evil is going to get stronger on the earth. So we have to go down and take care of it now. Now this is the question that we face today individually, in that church, and in our society. Will you listen to reason, or will you listen to revelation? Yeah. Will you listen to what knowledge is, or will you listen to what thus saith the Lord? Will you listen to what everybody else is doing, or will you listen what the book God gave us to say to do? Yeah. We have to make these choices. We got to bring our kids up in these choices. We got to let everybody know that following God is not a part-time job that we have. Yeah. Following God is something that when I wake up in the morning, I feel like doing it, not because I have to do it. Amen. When I go to bed at night, the last things on my mind is, God, thank you for letting me see another day. Amen. Following God is something that I want to do full time. We have to understand that a lot of us have been here long enough that we know God's going to get his way anyway. We have been there when we made the wrong decisions. Then went down this long road to come back where God told us to go in the first place. Yeah. We understand that God is going to be God regardless how hard we try not to do what he said. Yeah. God is going to put us exactly where he needs us. Now they came down to see this. Now this is the principle. Once you choose not to be ruled by God, then you start following an imitation God. An imitation God can be anything. It can even be your own brain that think you don't need God. Verse 7 tells us that let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. Have you noticed today that in our government there's a lot of confusion? No. In our government, there's so many questions that no one has the answer. Even in our family, sometimes there's a lot of confusion. But we think it's the men that's confused. But when I read verse 7, it said God came down and confused the language that they wouldn't understand. So maybe it's God trying to get a point across to us that's confusing us. The thing we have to really understand, it doesn't make a difference who you talk to. It doesn't make a difference what side of the party you on. If God is the one confusing, only God is problem is, we don't understand. We think we can fix everything ourselves, just like they did at the Tower of Babel. The further east we go, the more confusion we have. The further that we leave from God, the more confused we get. The further east we go that's saying, I don't need anybody to rule over us, the more imitation gods we follow. Verse 8 lets us know, so the Lord scattered them abroad, and they're over the face of all the earth. Now, this is a real important part right here. It said, so the Lord scattered them. Well, we got to look at this. In chapter 9, God told Noah's son to do what? Scatter across the earth. They said, no, we don't like that idea. We're going to go here as one. Yeah. God said, no, I need you to scatter across the earth. They, we're going to make this big tower right here. We don't need this. So they were rejecting the rule of God. So what God did was come down, cause them to not understand one another. They got confused. The only people that they understood was the people in their tribe. And what did they do at the end? They scattered. So God got what he wanted anyway. When God tells us to do something, it doesn't make a difference how much we fight it. God is going to win in the end. Yeah. It's easier for us to do what God tells us to do at the beginning. That way we don't have to go down this sidetrack road. I've been there. God called me in a ministry early. It wasn't for me. It's too many rules. I don't like this. At that time, I was a Seventh-day Adventist. They don't eat pork. I love ribs. I'm not doing it. I'm not going into ministry. I followed this road down here so long to wind back where? Right here. I should have cut off the middleman. As soon as he said, you're going to be a preacher, what seminary should I go to? But I didn't. I remember the last time I was at the Seventh-day Adventist Church when I was younger, I was so mad. Too many rules. They talked about everything that we could not do. I wasn't having any fun. We couldn't go to the movies because they said the Garden Angel stopped going. We couldn't do this. We couldn't do that. I remember I was in my car and I said to my mom, I'm never coming back to church. You can have it. And I went my own way. And I thought I was having fun doing my own thing. But all that I know, everything I touched crumbled. Everything I thought about doing didn't happen. Oh, did I have good jobs? Did I have good this? Yes, but I wasn't fulfilled inside because there was something still empty inside of me. But it was that day that I came back to God and God started sending me to seminary and I graduated my degree and I got behind a pulpit. That was the only day I felt hope. So instead of going down the sidetrack road, God said, hey, you're going to do this. Okay, what's the easy way to do it? Because you're going to end up doing it anyway. We think we want to be independent. We think our business is good. We can go without God. We think we're successful. We can go without God. We're fooling ourselves because we can't go without God. Yes. The air we breathe is because God allows us to breathe. The food we eat is because God gives it to us to eat. There was many nights I thought I was doing good on my own. To find out I was doing nothing at all. I've said this story many times, even because when I became a pastor, I wanted to get off the trail. Me and my family was done looking at churches. We said we're through with it. I just got a raise at my job. I work Monday through Friday, never on call. I looked at Brenda and said, we're done. And when she agreed, yes, we're done looking at churches, we don't want to pastor a church anymore. The very next day, I go into my job and they say, guess what? We're cutting it down to 15 hours a week. I guess we are looking at churches once again. I want to explain something to you. We can be like the people at Tower of Babel. We can act this way and want our independence. But I'd rather have someone telling me what to do that knows my future than me being out there alone. I don't know if this true story was something that a friend of mine told me. He says it's true. And to me, it's kind of, can't wrap my head around it, but I'm going to use it as closing. It was an airplane at a small airport in Dallas. And the guy went out, the plane was still on, and he left the plane in gear. The plane took off, got up in the air. Now this is a plane flying without a pilot. People was looking at it and saying, boy, look at that plane go. The only time it came down is when it ran out of gas. See, God will let us fly our own plane. God will let us soar as high as we think we can. But it's going to come a time that that plane is going to run out of gas. And then every verse you learn as a kid in Sunday school is going to come out saying, oh God, help me. The thing we have to understand that if God is not in the cockpit, we're not going anywhere. I looked at about a month ago, one of my favorite basketball players died because the helicopter went down. We don't know when that time is going to come. He packed up his little girl and said, hey, we got a basketball game. It's easier to fly there. We're not promised tomorrow. Yeah. We're not promised next hour. The Bible tells us even God don't even know when he's going to return. Jesus don't know when he's going to return, only the Father. So I'm ready to line my life up to what he wants and what he wills right now. In case I go home and lay down for a nap, which I'm going to take today, and not wake up. Because the best thing I know by being a believer of God, when my eyes close on this end, they're going to wake up seeing my Father in heaven. I'm going to make a challenge today. If you cannot say without a shadow of a doubt, if I die today, I'm going to wake up in heaven, I want you to come down and we're going to pray for you. It's not a better time to know Jesus. It's not a bad time to get right with the Lord. God has sent his son like we sung today. He was slain for our transgression. He didn't have to go to the cross, but he did because he loved us so much. And the only thing he asked for is to be right with him. If you need prayer today, we're going to open up these altars. If there's anything that's going on that is not lining up, and you said, I feel like I've been going east for so long, it's time for me to scatter where God told me to scatter at, we want you to come up. One thing you got to know, that God is a gentleman. He's never going to come in any place he's not asked to. So if you're ready today to make that commitment, if you're ready today to get your life right, if you're ready today to say, I'm tired of running, we're going to welcome you at these altars today.